tickets were already gone before most people realized what was happening. Not after the draw, not after the seedings were announced, before any of that. On a Monday morning resale app, a stadium pass that normally cost $60 was sitting at $400. Refresh the page 10 minutes later. $600. Courtside sections had crossed 1,000 before noon, and the tournament had not officially started. Not a single ball had been struck in the main draw. But the Coachella Valley already knew something enormous was coming. Her name is Alexandra Eala. She is 20 years old. She is left-handed. She is from Manila. And on this Monday, March 2nd, 2026, she has become the most disruptive force Indian Wells has ever invited onto its courts. Not just in the draw, not just on the scoreboard, in the hotels, in the merchandise lines, in the corporate boardrooms of Oregon, and in the secondary ticket markets that are now pricing a round of 64 match like a Grand Slam final. Here is what nobody saw coming. A world number 31 is not supposed to do this. A player seeded 31st does not break the financial structure of a tournament before her debut match. She does not force security teams to double at a morning practice session. She does not wipe a merchandise collection off the shelves before the stores have been fully open for an hour. She does not make Hollywood celebrities struggle to find courtside seats. None of that belongs in the story of a 31st seed. None of it. But the rulebook for Indian Wells 2026 was torn up before the week even began. And nobody in the tournament's history had a contingency plan for this. Start with the numbers. Secondary markets like StubHub and SeatGeek tell you where the real money is moving. On a standard year, use a general stadium pass for the opening rounds of the BNP Paribas Open costs $60 to $80. Manageable, normal, expected. On Monday morning of this week, any session featuring Alexandra Eala was listing for $400 minimum, touching $600 in the midsections and crossing $1,000 in the courtside rows. Those are Grand Slam final prices. Those are the numbers that appear in the final weekend of a major, not in the opening round of a WTA 1000 event. Not for a player ranked 31st, not ever. But the Filipino diaspora in California doesn't operate by historical precedent. It is one of the largest overseas communities in the world, and it had been preparing for this moment for months. From San Diego to San Francisco, from Sacramento to the valleys in between, thousands of fans had been organizing, coordinating, booking travel and accommodation, and accepting whatever the resale market was asking. Because this wasn't just a tennis match. This was the first time in history that a Filipino athlete walked into a WTA 1000 tournament as a seeded competitor. That is not a sporting event, that is a national moment. And no price tag was going to keep them out of that stadium. Season ticket holders who had been coming to Indian Wells for 2 decades walked through those gates on Monday and found a tournament they didn't recognize. Thousands of fans in blue and red and yellow, chanting in Tagalog before the main draw had even begun. Then the car parks were loud, the practice courts were louder. When Alexandra Eala stepped onto court 3 for her morning training session, the crowd was so dense that fans were climbing on top of each other just to catch a glimpse of her Sampaguita-patterned Nike gear. The security teams had been doubled already. It still barely held. The atmosphere at a practice session was more electric than most tournament finals. That is the Eala hijack. Shein in the WTA has been forced to rethink its entire security and seating infrastructure for the rest of the week. This is not a crowd. This is a cultural occupation. And it is only getting started. But the ticket markets are only the visible surface of what is actually happening here. Because while the box office was melting down, something far larger was quietly leaking out of the Nike World headquarters in Beaverton, Oregon. Just days before her arrival in California, Alexandra Eala made a visit to the Nike campus. The public framing was straightforward: a sponsor visit, a photo opportunity between tournaments, the kind of appearance that athletes make dozens of times a year. But the details that have since emerged from inside those corridors are not straightforward at all. What is being described by insiders is not a routine check-in. What is being described is a pivot. Though Nike has reportedly restructured its entire Gen Z global marketing strategy around a single athlete. And the numbers being whispered in those corridors are staggering. A long-term endorsement deal valued somewhere between $45 and $75 million. $75 million for a world number 31. Not for the defending champion, not for the world number one. For a 20-year-old from Manila who 9 months ago was still working her way through the qualifying rounds of smaller tournaments, Nike is not looking at where she is ranked today. Nike is looking at 100 million Filipinos around the world who will buy anything with the Eala name on it. They are looking at the Gen Z market across Southeast Asia. They are looking at what happens to their brand when this player wins a Grand Slam. And they're betting $75 million that it is a matter of when, not if. When Eala walked through the Oregon campus, she wasn't visiting a sponsor. She was being anointed. She was being placed into a lineage that includes Serena Williams and Maria Sharapova. The people in those rooms knew exactly what they were building, and the Indian Wells merchandise stands confirmed it within the first hour of trading. On Monday morning, the tournament's official stores had barely opened when the Alexandra Eala Sampaguita signature collection ceased to exist. Every item, every size, gone. The national flower of the Philippines, stitched into Nike gear, had become the most coveted object in the history of the BNP Paribas Open. Sales data emerging from the tournament shows that Eala's merchandise line outsold the combined gear of the 5 highest-ranked players in the draw. 5 of the best players in the world, combined, be outsold by a 31st seed. The top 10 veterans in the locker room did not miss that number. It is a marketing reality that is making the tour's established names deeply uncomfortable. Players who have spent years building their brands, earning their endorsements, climbing to the top 10 in the world, are watching a 20-year-old from Manila generate more commercial heat than all of them put together. It is not personal. It is mathematics. 100 million Filipinos is a market that dwarfs the fan bases of most established tennis stars. And Nike understood that before almost anyone else did. The economic shockwave moves outward from there. Tournament organizers are reporting something that has no historical parallel at this event. For the first time in the history of the BNP Paribas Open, the majority of hotel bookings and restaurant reservations in the Coachella Valley are coming from international travelers. Name fans flying in from Manila, from Singapore, from cities across the United States who bought their plane tickets the day the draw was announced. The local economy around Indian Wells has never experienced a single athlete driving this volume of external tourism. The valley is full, the restaurants are booked, and the demand for match tickets is so far beyond available supply that tournament officials are now in serious discussions about installing giant screens outside Stadium 1, the second largest tennis stadium in the world, so that the thousands of fans who couldn't secure seats can still be part of what is happening inside. They came anyway. They are not leaving, and they haven't even seen her play yet. Now look at the draw, because once you understand the economic takeover, the bracket becomes something else entirely. When the official draw was released on Monday, the tennis world went quiet for a beat. Because the draw had placed Alexandra Eala in the most punishing section of the entire tournament. Not the manageable half. Not the side of the bracket with the soft paths. The section where, if the seeds hold, her projected path runs directly into the reigning world number 1, Aryna Sabalenka, in the round of 32. The Tiger of Belarus, the most physically ferocious player on tour. The player who hits the ball flatter and harder than almost anyone in the history of the women's game. The Filipino community went into a frenzy the moment the bracket appeared, and the betting markets moved within minutes. But here's what the analysts are saying, and this is the part that has the tennis establishment genuinely unsettled. The high-bouncing courts of Indian Wells, the dry, thin desert air, the surface conditions that naturally reward spin, patience, and tactical variation. These are not Sabalenka's conditions. And her flat power game thrives on pace and a surface that cooperates with her ball striking. Indian Wells historically complicates her rhythm. It always has. And Alexandra Eala was not built for easy conditions. She was built specifically for courts like this. Her left-handed topspin was developed and refined at the Rafa Nadal Academy, one of the most demanding environments in professional tennis. The mechanics she trained there translate directly to what Indian Wells demands. Her win over world number 7 Jasmine Paolini in Dubai last month was not a lucky result. It was a technical demonstration. It was her showing the tour exactly what her game looks like when everything is working. Analysts are now using a specific phrase to describe what her left-handed spin does to Sabalenka's return patterns. Kryptonite. That is the word being used in broadcast booths and analytical sessions this week. Her game against that opponent on this surface is described as kryptonite. Tickets for the potential third-round clash between these two have crossed the four-figure mark before the tournament has officially begun. People are not paying those prices to watch a tennis match. They are paying to be in the building if the impossible happens. And Sabalenka is not even the only obstacle. Before Eala could reach the world number 1, the bracket suggests she may first need to get through the defending champion Mira Andreeva, or Venus Williams, who has returned to the Indian Wells Desert on a wild card at this remarkable stage of her career. Experts are calling this section of the draw a group of death. Every single match from the round of 64 onward carries the weight of a tournament final. The player lounges are tense. Top seeds who are accustomed to being the focal point of every event are navigating the uncomfortable reality of being treated as supporting cast in their own tournament. When the shadow of a 31st seed with 100 million fans behind her is sitting over the entire second half of the bracket, she knows what is in front of her. Everything she has done this week shows it. The official prize money for the BNP Paribas Open champion is $1.15 million. That is more than 64 million Philippine pesos. Every match Eala wins from her round of 64 debut on March 6th brings her closer to that check. And more importantly, closer to the 1,000 ranking points that would push her into the world top 20 for the first time in her career. And then, she made the decision that defines her entire approach to this week. She pulled out of doubles, completely. No doubles draw, no extra matches, no divided focus. Every session, every recovery window, every minute on those practice courts belongs exclusively to the singles competition. A 20-year-old with the discipline to make that call is telling you something clearly. She is not here for a good performance. She is not here to make a respectable run and exit gracefully. She came to the California desert with one objective: win the tournament, lift the trophy. Nothing less is the plan. She has been seen in practice every day this week, and the word observers keep using is ferocious. When her left-handed forehand snapping through the thin desert air with a precision and intensity that draws crowds of onlookers who stop walking and just watch. She is drilling serve consistency to handle the altitude. She is rehearsing the specific patterns built to disrupt Sabalenka's timing. She sharpened those patterns in Dubai. She is refining them here under the desert sun. Every session is deliberate. Every minute is accounted for. And the desert sky over the Indian Wells Tennis Garden has shifted into that deep purple that settles over the Coachella Valley in the early evening and makes everything feel weightier. And the weight of this moment is genuinely enormous. What has unfolded in California over these last several days is not just a reception for a rising player. It is an official reckoning. The sport is being forced to confront a new reality, and the existing hierarchy is adjusting to it, whether it wants to or not. From the streets of Manila to the courts of the Coachella Valley, Alexandra Eala has accomplished what no Filipino athlete in the history of the sport ever managed. She walked into a WTA 1000 tournament carrying a seed number. She earned the fear of the players around her. She moved a global merchandise market. She overwhelmed a tournament's security infrastructure at a practice session. But she redirected the economic center of gravity of an entire professional event before hitting her first competitive ball. The locker room conversation has changed. It is no longer about whether she belongs here. That is settled. The conversation now is about how far she can actually go and whether anyone currently in this draw has the game to stop her. The road ahead is clear. On March 6th, Alexandra Eala steps onto that court for her round of 64 debut as a seeded player. And the crowd inside Stadium 1 for that moment will be unlike anything this tournament has ever produced. The noise will be unlike anything these courts have absorbed before. And the psychological armor that the California reception has wrapped around her is real. Even the world number 1 should think carefully about what it means to walk out against an opponent backed by that kind of collective force. The potential round of 32 clash between Aryna Sabalenka and Alexandra Eala is the most anticipated match of this entire tournament. It represents something larger than a third-round result at a WTA 1000 event. It represents a battle for the direction of the sport itself. A 20-year-old from Southeast Asia, playing the best tennis of her life, on the surface best suited to her game, backed by a nation of over 100 million people, against the most dominant player in the world. That match has already sold out. The screens outside the stadium are already being planned. The moment is already bigger than the venue. With a $1.15 million prize waiting for the champion and a top 20 ranking on the line for a deep run, Alexandra Eala is standing at the entrance of something historic. She is not just playing for herself anymore, she hasn't been for a while. And she is playing for every young athlete in Southeast Asia who was told at some point that their ceiling was too low for the stage they were dreaming about. She is playing for every kid in Manila who watched her on a screen during Dubai and thought, maybe the world is bigger than what we were told. Maybe it is actually possible. On the practice courts today, she was seen one final time before this week truly begins, her left-handed forehand snapping through the desert air. Her footwork sharp, her focus absolute. She looked like someone who has already decided how this story ends. She is ready, she is rested, and she is carrying the weight of a nation that has been waiting a generation for exactly this moment. The desert heat at Indian Wells is relentless this week, but it is nothing compared to what is burning inside Alexandra Eala right now. And on March 6th, when she walks out onto that court for the first time as a seeded competitor at a WTA 1000 event, the sound from those stands is going to travel all the way back to Manila. If you are standing with the Pinoy Queen as she takes on the world's best at Indian Wells, hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss a single update from the desert. Drop champion Eala in the comments right now if you believe she is bringing that trophy home. The first ball is almost in the air. The stadium is packed and waiting, and the legacy of Alexandra Eala is about to bloom in full.